What if the deadliest weapon on a fighter jet is not the missile it carries, but the silence that conceals it? This essay explores the hidden arsenals of the F-22 Raptor and F-35 Lightning II, not as mere collections of missiles and bombs, but as embodiments of two philosophies of war. The F-22, born of Cold War fears, is a perfected predator, a stealthy duelist wielding AMRAAMs, sidewinders, and even a cannon designed to win air battles before they begin. The F-35, by contrast, is less a hunter than a conductor. Its greatest weapon is information, fusing data from countless sensors to orchestrate destruction across land, sea, and air. Both jets reveal a shift from raw firepower toward the cognitive and networked domains of combat, where illusions, electronic warfare, and deterrent presence may prove more decisive than direct strikes. So the question lingers. In a future where wars may be won through silence, invisibility, and perception, what truly counts as a weapon?
Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being truly well-informed on the most compelling topics. Today we're plunging into a question that might just fundamentally shift your understanding of modern conflict. What if the most lethal weapon isn't the missile you track screaming across the sky, or, the bomb that shakes the earth below? What if it's something you'd never even perceive? A silence, maybe. A void. The calculated absence of a threat that actually breaks an enemy's will before a single shot is ever fired.
It's a really profound thought, isn't it? We're instinctively drawn to the big explosions, the tangible destruction, but the true power, like you're suggesting, it might just reside in the unseen, the unheard, the unknown.
Exactly.
And that's really the heart of our exploration today as we delve into two of the most advanced military aircraft in existence, the F-22 Raptor and the F-35 Lightning II. These aren't, just planes. Our sources describe them almost as weaponized ecosystems or flying arguments for really distinct philosophies of power.
Absolutely. In this deep dive, it isn't simply about cataloging their weapon bays or counting missiles. Not at all.
Yeah.
It's about dissecting the very soul of their lethality, really understanding that their weapons are not just tools they carry, but they're extensions of what these incredible machines fundamentally are. So for you, our listener, our mission today is to journey into how the nature of a weapon can profoundly change the very meaning of warfare itself. We're going to try and demystify some truly complex technical concepts, make them easy to understand, so you can really gain a deep, coherent grasp of these cutting-edge military technologies and, well, their far-reaching implications. We want you to feel thoroughly informed, not, bogged down in jargon.
Exactly. The goal is that you'll walk away from this deep dive with a pretty comprehensive understanding of how these aircraft aren't just revolutionizing aerial combat, but they're really reshaping the entire character of human conflict. So, yeah, let's unpack this.
Okay, so to truly appreciate this new era of warfare, I think we have to start with its maybe earliest architect, the F-22 Raptor. It's often been described as the cathedral of air dominance, and that description, it really does capture its singular purpose, doesn't it?
It really does.
When you look at an F-22, it's almost like you're looking at something, well, almost spiritual in its design. A machine built with this singular, almost monastic devotion to unequivocally own the sky.
That analogy is incredibly apt. Every single facet of the F-22's design, from its unique thrust vectoring nozzles, we can talk more about those, to its specialized radar-absorbent skin, it all serves this one kind of divine purpose: absolute air superiority. It's genuinely a perfected predator, an instrument of such exquisite air-to-air lethality that its very existence is intended to render the skies uncontested.
Wow.
And its design lines, they aren't just about looking sleek or going fast. They're described as axiomatic, a series of geometric proofs for the theorem of low observability.
Okay, so geometric proofs. Basically, its shape is designed like a math problem to make it invisible to radar.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. Its physical form itself is a weapon, engineered, like you said, as a mathematical masterpiece to scatter radar waves in such specific ways that it's nearly impossible for enemy systems to get a consistent lock, or even know it's there.
So that low observability, that almost supernatural stealth, that leads directly to what our sources are calling the doctrine of the invisible strike. The F-22 isn't just designed to fight, it's designed to dominate without ever being touched, to be like a whisper of static on enemy radar, making sure the adversary never even knows it's there until it's way, way too late.
Exactly. It embodies that initial concept we talked about, that silent preemptive power.
Right.
And this brings us to its formidable stealth and sensing capabilities. Beyond the physical stuff we just touched on, like those thrust vectoring nozzles, which, by the way, are amazing, they allow the F-22's engines to actually pivot their exhaust up and down.
Oh, so it can maneuver like nothing else.
Pretty much. It gives it incredible agility, letting it perform maneuvers that seem to defy physics, like a super agile hummingbird in a dogfight, if you can picture that. But beyond the cool moves, it's the APG-77 radar that truly makes it a ghost. This is a marvel of active electronically scanned array technology, AESA for short.
Okay, AESA. How does that work, simply put? Is it just a better radar?
It's fundamentally different. Think of an old radar as like one big sweeping spotlight. An AESA radar is more like having thousands of tiny independent flashlights that can all point in different directions at the same time, or focus intensely on one spot. This lets the F-22 detect, track, and engage a target from ranges that beggar belief.
I love that phrase, meaning distances so vast they're almost unbelievable. And crucially, it can do this without giving away its own position. It can scan without making itself a big, obvious target.
So it's like it can whisper its questions to the sky instead of shouting them.
That's a good way to think about it. It uses low probability of intercept, or LPI, techniques, so its radar signals are hard for enemy detectors to even pick up, let alone analyze. Okay, so with that incredibly clear, unparalleled picture of the battle space, the pilot can execute what's famously known as first look, first shot, first kill. It's designed to end a fight before the opponent even realizes they're in one. The battle is often over, effectively, before it has physically begun, right?
Precisely. That ability to see without being seen, to strike without warning, is absolutely fundamental to its air dominance mission. And what's truly crucial to grasp here, I think, is that the weapon isn't just the missile itself. That's just the pointy end.
Right.
It's the synergistic lethality, as our sources put it, of the radar, the stealth, and the missile combined. It's this whole package working together. They call it a trinity of destruction.
A trinity of destruction. I like that.
Yeah. This deep integration means the F-22 isn't simply launching a missile, it's orchestrating this invisible, overwhelming attack. The core insight, really, is that it allows the pilot to see, shoot, and disappear before the enemy even knows they're under attack, winning the fight before it can even truly escalate.
Okay, and speaking of missiles, let's talk about what our sources refer to as the sanctum spears. Those internal weapons bays. That sounds very sacred.
It fits the cathedral analogy, doesn't it?
It does. They describe how the F-22's 3 internal weapon bay doors snap open for only fractions of a second, revealing its fangs before vanishing once more. Just a quick flash.
And that internal carriage is absolutely crucial for maintaining that stealth advantage. If the missiles were hanging out on external pylons under the wings, like on older jets,
they'd light up on enemy radar like a Christmas tree.
Exactly. They'd reflect radar waves, making the F-22 visible. So this split-second reveal is a silent testament to its whole design philosophy. Stealth above all.
Okay, so inside these bays, what's the main weapon for air-to-air?
The primary instrument of air-to-air combat is the AIM-120 AIMRAM. That stands for Advanced Medium-Range Air-to-Air Missile. Now, an AIMRAM is a pretty formidable weapon on any legacy fighter like an F-15 or F-16, but launched from an F-22, well, it's transformed into something almost theological, a thunderbolt from a clear sky.
A thunderbolt from a clear sky. Because the enemy literally doesn't see it coming.
Right. The F-22 can launch the AMRAAM at incredible ranges thanks to its radar and stealth, allowing it to get into an optimal firing position undetected, and then immediately it can disengage. It executes what's called a launch and turn away maneuver.
So the pilot doesn't have to guide it all the way?
Nope. Once the missile's own radar seeker is close enough to lock onto the target, what they call going active, the pilot can put the jet into a defensive position, turn tail, basically, trusting the missile's own brain to guide it for the final brutal phase. This capability lets the F-22 maintain its stealth advantage, not linger in potential threat zone, enhances its survival, and allows it to potentially engage multiple targets much more efficiently. Fire, turn, find the next target.
Okay, that makes sense. But what if that long-distance invisible strike isn't an option? What if, things go wrong? Or maybe an adversary is just really good or lucky and manages to get inside that initial kill range. What happens when it closes in for a classic dogfight? Does the Raptor still have an answer for that primal duel?
It absolutely does, and that's crucial. For that precise scenario, the F-22 holds the AIM-9X Sidewinder. This missile is described as a stiletto to the AMRAAM spear. It's the weapon for that chaotic close-in fight. The duel, as you put it.
A stiletto. Sharp, fast, close in.
Exactly. It features an advanced imaging infrared seeker and, like the jet itself, a thrust vectoring nozzle, making it incredibly agile.
Okay. Imaging infrared. That means it sees heat, but better than older heat seekers.
Much better. It doesn't just look for a single hot spot like older missiles, which could be fooled by flares pretty easily. It actually paints a detailed thermal picture of the target's heat signature. It can distinguish the heat of the engines from the heat of, say, a flare. Makes it much, much harder to fool.
And the thrust vectoring nozzle, like the jet's engines.
Yep, the missile's rocket motor can pivot its nozzle too. This allows it to make incredibly tight turns right after launch, pulling G-forces that, frankly, no human pilot could possibly endure. It means if it's launched within range, it's almost guaranteed a hit. It can whip around and chase down even a highly maneuvering target.
Wow. And here's where it gets really interesting, isn't it? The way the pilot connects with it. The fusion of man and machine.
That's right. The AIM-9X is linked directly to the pilot's helmet-mounted display. This is a game changer. It means the pilot need only look at his target, and the Sidewinder seeker will follow, ready to leap off the rail, even if the target is way off to the side, not directly in front of the aircraft's nose.
So it's look at the enemy plane and the missile locks on.
Essentially, yes. The helmet tracks the pilot's head movement, cues the missile seeker to look in the same direction. Imagine that. The missile literally follows the pilot's gaze, extending their will directly into the weapon system. Our sources call it an intimate, terrifying fusion of man and machine. And it's a very visceral acknowledgement that for all the advanced tech, the primal instincts of the dogfight have not been entirely exercised. You still might need to fight up close.
That high-off bore sight capability, being able to shoot over the shoulder almost, must be terrifying for an opponent.
Absolutely terrifying. It removes the need to point the entire aircraft directly at the target to get a lock. The pilot just needs to see it. And this is a critical design philosophy point. For all the talk of invisible warfare and beyond visual range kills, the F-22's design still pragmatically acknowledges the possibility of that close-quarter struggle. It's a testament to the enduring reality that even with the most advanced tech, aerial combat can, and sometimes does, devolve into a chaotic, intimate dogfight.
Which leads us perfectly to the final weapon, the one our sources call the blasphemous secret, the M61A2 Vulcan cannon. I mean, a 20-millimeter Gatling gun in a multi-million-dollar stealth fighter. It feels almost like finding a flintlock pistol tucked into an astronaut suit. It seems like an anachronism, doesn't it?
It does seem that way at first glance, like a ghost of a different era, as one source put it. Why would a Spectre, a machine built for invisibility and long-range missile kills, need such a relatively crude, intimate weapon?
Yeah, why? Is it just tradition?
Not just tradition, it's practicality. It's precisely that acknowledgement you mentioned. The cannon is the F-22's admission of fallibility. It's an acknowledgement that for all its technological perfection, the universe of combat is still governed by chaos. It's there for when the network fails, the missiles miss, maybe they've all been fired.
And you're down to the wire?
Exactly. And all that's left is one pilot, one aircraft, and the last 480 rounds of 20-millimeter ammo. It's the final desperate argument.
Can you imagine the sheer adrenaline, the desperation of a pilot after all the fancy systems have been exhausted or haven't worked, reverting to pure kinetic energy, just bullets in a close quarters knife fight? It's a raw, visceral last resort.
So the analogy holds. The F-22 is this cathedral built to a modern god of war, but it secretly keeps an old pagan idol hidden in the walls, just in case. That imagery truly resonates. It highlights this blend of super cutting-edge technology with the raw, unpredictable, and often brutal nature of conflict.
It really does. It's a recognition that even in the most technologically advanced warfare, the unexpected can and often will happen, and sometimes you just need a gun. It speaks to the enduring human element in warfare too, even when the machines become so incredibly advanced. It's a critical counterpoint to the idea of entirely sterile, impersonal combat. Reminds us that sometimes the oldest tools are still needed. Okay, so that's the F-22, the ultimate duelist, the cathedral of air dominance. Stealthy, but with a backup punch. Now let's shift gears. If the F-22 is that solitary, magnificent cathedral, then our sources argue the F-35 Lightning II is something else entirely. They call it a panopticon. Now, for those maybe unfamiliar, panopticon is this concept for a prison designed by Jeremy Bentham, I think. where a single guard in a central tower can see all the inmates, but the inmates never know if they're being watched at that exact moment. It creates this system of pervasive, invisible surveillance designed to make people regulate their own behavior.
Exactly. And that analogy perfectly captures the F-35's core philosophy. Its design is not primarily about the singular pursuit of air dominance, like the F-22. It's a different beast altogether. Instead, it's about the near-omniscient management of the entire battle space. It's designed to be a sentient node in a planetary network, always seeing, always knowing, not just what's directly in front of it, but what's happening all around, above, below, everywhere.
Total situational awareness shared across the whole battlefield network.
Precisely. It's about collecting, processing, and sharing information on an unprecedented scale.
And this brings us to what's truly its most profound weapon, which, fascinatingly, isn't carried in its base, but is woven into its very being, its sensor fusion.
That's the absolute key to understanding the F-35. Sensor fusion.
So, to truly grasp this, our sources invite us to kind of step into the cockpit. Imagine being the pilot. Your helmet isn't merely a piece of equipment. It becomes your entire reality, your window into this augmented world.
That's the experience. Imagine yourself in that cockpit. You're not just getting a few distinct data points, a radar track here, a warning tone there. You're immersed in a constant, massive torrent of data streams. This includes information from the F-35's own very advanced APG-81 ASA radar, similar tech to the F-22's, but maybe more geared towards multiple roles. Then there's its revolutionary 360-degree distributed aperture system, or DAS.
DAS, what's that?
Okay, picture 6 high-resolution infrared cameras mounted strategically all around the aircraft frame. They constantly stare out in all directions. The system stitches their views together in real time to provide a seamless spherical infrared view around the jet, day or night. It can spot missile launches hundreds of miles away, track multiple aircraft simultaneously, even allow the pilot to see through the aircraft structure itself.
See through the floor, like X-ray vision.
Kind of. If the pilot looks down, the DAS feed projected onto their helmet visor shows them the ground below, as if the cockpit floor wasn't there. It eliminates blind spots completely. And that's just the start. You add data feeds from wingtip electronic surveillance sensors listening for enemy signals, data from other F-35s in the formation sharing their sensor picture, data from AWACS aircraft, those big radar planes flying way back.
Satellites, troops on the ground.
Exactly. Data from satellites orbiting far above, even inputs from ground soldiers maybe leasing a target. It's an enormous amount of information. Now, the jet's central computer, which our sources aptly call its Rictronic soul, doesn't just bombard the pilot with this raw chaos. That would be useless.
Like information overload.
Instead, it continuously curates it, fuses it all together, correlates everything, and paints a single, coherent, intuitive picture of reality directly onto your helmet visor. It's like having every piece of information from every friendly asset seamlessly stitched together into one perfect, easy-to-understand tapestry of the battle space. Friendlies in blue, hostiles in red, unknowns in yellow, potential threats highlighted.
So you're not just flying a jet, you're basically inhabiting this God's eye view of the entire operational area. With this fused reality projected onto your helmet, you can literally look through the floor of your own aircraft and see the ground below. You can spot the heat bloom of a hostile missile launch 800 miles away, maybe detected by DAS or a satellite, far beyond your own radar range. You can identify and track every threat, every friendly, every unknown in a seamless, intuitive battle space. It's just an unparalleled level of perception, an almost omniscient understanding of the unfolding conflict.
This profound ability to know, as the sources put it, is truly the F-35's primary act of war, before it even thinks about firing a weapon. And from this incredible omniscience flows its physical lethality. Like the F-22, it maintains stealth through internal weapons carriage. It carries AMRAAMs and Sidewinders internally for air-to-air duties and self-defense, making sure it can operate in contested airspace without being easily detected.
Okay, so it can handle itself in an airfight if needed.
Yeah.
But its true purpose, its true calling as a multi-role strike fighter that's most vividly revealed in its air-to-ground munitions, right?
That's where you really see the difference in philosophy shine through. While it can carry standard precision-guided bombs like the GBU-31 JDAM, basically a regular bomb with a GPS kit strapped on.
Yeah, the workhorse.
The workhorse, exactly. But the more revealing weapon, the one that truly highlights its philosophy of networked systemic lethality, is the GBU-53B Stormbreaker. It used to be called the Small Diameter Bomb 2, or SDB-2.
Stormbreaker. Sounds ominous. What makes it so special?
Well, the Stormbreaker is a fascinating example of modern precision warfare. It's not really a weapon of brute force, like a huge bunker buster. It's described more as a weapon of systemic collapse. First off, it's incredibly small and light, relatively speaking. This means an F-35 can carry 8 of them internally inside its weapons bays while still maintaining its full stealth profile. That's a lot of precision shots from one sortie.
8 separate targets, potentially.
Potentially, yes. Or multiple hits on high-value targets. But what makes it truly revolutionary is its tri-mode seeker. Think of it as being equipped with 3 different sets of eyes to find its target.
Okay, 3 sets of eyes.
Yep. It has an imaging infrared camera that detects heat signatures, just like the Sidewinder, but optimized for ground targets. It has a millimeter wave radar seeker, which is amazing because it can see through clouds, rain, smoke, dust, stuff that would blind optical or IR sensors. And it also has a semi-active laser seeker, so it can home in on a laser spot painted on the target by the F-35 itself, another aircraft, or even troops on the ground for ultra-precise hits.
So it can find its target no matter the weather, day or night.
Pretty much. That combination means it can find and hit its target in any weather, day or night. And it gets better. It can even be retargeted in flight via beta link. So if the F-35 gets updated intelligence, maybe the primary target moved or a higher priority threat pops up, the pilot can redirect a Stormbreaker already on its way. It can even hit moving targets like tanks or vehicles.
That's incredible flexibility. So let's picture this. An F-35 is lurking deep within enemy airspace, totally undetected thanks to its stealth and maybe some electronic warfare tricks. And then it opens its bays and releases its full complement of 8 Stormbreakers. Each one can be individually tasked, right, to methodically dismantle a different critical node of an enemy's defense system.
Exactly. Imagine this scenario playing out. One bomb heads for a key command and control bunker. Another targets a specific surface-to-air missile radar installation. A third goes after a crucial fuel depot. A fourth maybe targets a group of parked enemy aircraft on an airfield, and so on.
It's like surgical strikes across the entire system.
That's the idea. Our sources call it network neurosurgery, performed at range with a ghost for a surgeon.
That's such a vivid way to put it, isn't it?
It really is. It perfectly explains how these weapons aren't just about blowing things up randomly. They're about crippling an adversary's ability to wage war by taking out the critical pieces, precisely and systemically. Yes, it perfectly illustrates how the F-35 targets an enemy's infrastructure, their command systems, their logistics, their air defenses, aiming for that broader systemic effect that can paralyze an entire military operation, not just destroy individual targets one by one. And, just like the F-22, it also carries a cannon for those just-in-case moments. It's the GAU-22A, a 25mm cannon, slightly larger caliber than the F-22's. It's tucked into its frame like a last secret tooth, serving as that echo of older wars, a final close-range option, maybe for strafing runs if needed.
Okay, but here's something truly unique about the F-35, something the F-22 doesn't do. Its remarkable duality. Our sources describe how, if stealth is not the primary concern, Lightning II can transform. It can enter what pilots apparently call beast mode.
Ah, yes, beast mode. It sounds dramatic, and it kind of is.
What exactly happens in beast mode?
Well, in beast mode, the F-35 essentially sheds its ghostly cloak of maximum stealth. Pylons are affixed to its wings externally, and it becomes a visible, snarling monster, capable of carrying over 18,000 pounds of ordnance missiles, bombs hanging under its wings, and fuselage.
18,000 pounds, that's a huge amount.
It's a massive payload, way more than it can carry internally. This transformation is a profound philosophical statement in itself, isn't it? It's acknowledging that sometimes the most effective tool isn't the silent, stealthy scalpel. Sometimes you need the very visible, very heavy sledgehammer of overwhelming firepower.
So what would they use beast mode if they don't need stealth?
Exactly. Maybe in a scenario where air superiority has already been totally achieved and the main threat from sophisticated enemy air defenses is gone. Or perhaps against a less sophisticated adversary where the risk of being detected and shot down by advanced radar systems is much lower. In those cases, you might prioritize delivering the maximum amount of ordnance to support ground troops or hit a large number of targets quickly over maintaining maximum stealth.
So the F-35 can be the unseen observer in the panopticon, subtly dismantling an enemy's will from within the shadows. Or it can be the heavily armed guard, kicking down the cell door with explosive force. The choice itself becomes a weapon. That flexibility is truly incredible. It gives commanders this huge spectrum of tactical options depending on the situation.
It really does. And that leads us to maybe its ultimate weapon, which involves no weapons firing from the F-35 itself at all. Our sources call it the distributor of death.
The distributor of death sounds chilling.
It refers to the idea that the F-35 may never fire its own weapons in a particular engagement. Instead, using its incredible sensor suite and network connectivity, it may hand targeting data to a destroyer at sea, telling its missiles where to go. Or it might pass data to a flight of Allied jets, maybe older, non-stealthy planes like F-16s, guiding their weapons onto targets they can't see themselves. Or even to a drone swarm.
Wow. So it finds the target and tells someone else to shoot it.
Precisely. Its true weapon is the ability to make every other weapon smarter, faster, deadlier. It acts as the central nervous system for the entire battle space, a massive force multiplier that elevates the lethality of every platform it connects to. Whether that's a Navy ship hundreds of miles away, an older Air Force jet, or maybe an Army artillery unit on the ground, it connects everyone and makes the whole team more effective.
That's a huge shift in how we think about air power, isn't it? Where the aircraft itself becomes this quarterback calling the plays and enhancing the lethality of other platforms.
It absolutely is a fundamental shift.
Which leads us perfectly into this next fascinating idea: warfare as an illusion, where the most sophisticated weapons might have no mass at all, leave no craters, and their impact isn't on the physical world, but on the cognitive and electronic reality of the enemy.
Yes. This is where things get really mind-bending. What's fascinating here is that both the F-22 and F-35 are masters of electronic warfare, or EW. But the F-35, given its role as that network node, as our sources highlight, really elevates it to an art form. It's not just about seeing the enemy anymore. It's about actively blinding and deafening them. It's about manipulating their perception of the battlefield itself.
Okay, how does that work exactly? Blinding and deafening using radar.
Yeah.
You said earlier the radar's job is to see. That sounds incredibly counterintuitive.
It does, but think about it this way. Those powerful AESA radars on both jets, they are not just for seeing, they are for blinding. With the flick of a switch, potentially, these sophisticated arrays can instantly become tremendously powerful and precise electronic attack platforms.
So they can use their own radar to mess with the enemy's radar.
Exactly. They can focus a needle-thin beam of microwave energy to overwhelm an enemy fighter's radar, effectively rendering it deaf and blind. Imagine you're flying an enemy jet. Suddenly, your primary sensor, your electronic eyes on the world, just stops working. Your screen might fill with static snow, maybe weird strobing lines, or worse, just go blank. Your ability to detect, track, and engage is instantly annihilated.
That sounds incredibly disorienting. Terrifying, actually.
It is. It makes you fundamentally vulnerable. You have no idea what's out there.
That's incredible. But it goes beyond just jamming, doesn't it? Our sources talk about electronic subterfuge and even creating phantom squadrons. Now, this really sounds like something out of a science fiction novel.
It does sound like sci-fi, but apparently it's very real, especially with the F-35's capabilities. It can potentially go much further into these subtle forms of electronic subterfuge. Because of its advanced processing power and those integrated electronic warfare systems, it could theoretically project false targets onto an enemy's screen, creating entire phantom squadrons out of thin air.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
Making ghosts appear on their radar.
That's the concept. Imagine you're an enemy air defense controller on the ground or a pilot in the air. Suddenly, your radar displays show, say, 20 hostile aircraft bearing down on your position from multiple directions. Panic stations, right? But in reality, there might only be 1 or 2 F-35s quietly observing, generating those false signals.
So what's the effect?
Well, it forces the enemy to react to threats that do not exist. They have to waste fuel and missiles on ghosts. They scramble their own fighters. They turn on their powerful search radars, making themselves easy targets. They commit valuable surface-to-air missiles. They burn precious fuel and ordnance, all chasing illusions. It drains their combat power without a single real shot being fired by the F-35.
That's pure psychological warfare, just manifested by technology. It's like Sun Tzu's supreme art of war, subduing the enemy without fighting, made manifest in silicon and gallium arsenide. Just incredible to think of these jets essentially manipulating an enemy's perception of reality, winning battles by creating a false narrative within their own command systems.
It's a whole new level of warfare. And it gets even more nuanced with systems like the F-35's NSQ-239 Barracuda system.
Barracuda, what does that do?
The Barracuda is this comprehensive suite of electronic sensors, kind of passive receivers dotted around the aircraft. It constantly listens to the electromagnetic spectrum. It's essentially an incredibly sensitive set of ears. It's designed to catalog every enemy emission. It detects every radar ping, every radio communication burst, every data link signal. It geolocates where the signal is coming from, identifies what kind of system it is, like is it a search radar, a tracking radar, a specific type of SAM system, all in real time.
So it builds this complete electronic map of the enemy.
Exactly. It builds what they call an electronic order of battle. It knows what the enemy has, where it is, and potentially what it's doing electronically. This information is invaluable.
How is it used? Defensively. Yeah. Offense.
Both. It's used defensively to cue countermeasures against an incoming threat. So if it detects the specific radar signal of a missile locking onto the F-35, it can automatically trigger the right kind of jamming or deploy decoys like flares or chaff. But it's also used offensively to build a perfect electronic order of battle for the pilot and for the entire network. That map of the enemy's electronic footprint, understanding their electronic nervous system, allows the F-35 and other assets to then manipulate it, jam it, avoid it, or attack it much more effectively.
Right. Know your enemy's electronic pressure points.
Precisely. This weaponization of information is the core of the F-35's being. It's designed to win not just the physical fight, but the cognitive one. The thinking is, if you can shatter an enemy's situational awareness, you shatter their ability to fight effectively. If you don't know where you are, where the enemy is, or even if the targets you think you see are real, you are already defeated.
Think about it from the enemy pilot's perspective. They're flying blind, his displays flickering with phantom contacts, his communications jammed. They're completely isolated and confused. They're already defeated. The physical missile that eventually arrives to seal their fate becomes almost a formality, a physical postscript to a battle that was won minutes earlier in the silent, invisible realm of the electromagnetic spectrum. Wow, the battle's won before they even know it started, fought in a dimension they can barely perceive.
It's a profound shift, and it raises a really important question, something for you, our listener, to really consider deeply. What does it truly mean to wield such weapons? What becomes of the human warrior when they are placed inside these, glass and carbon fiber cathedrals of lethality, with capabilities that honestly seemed like pure science fiction just a generation ago? You have to consider the burden, the transformation placed upon the pilot.
Exactly. Let's think about the two pilots. First, the F-22 pilot. How do our sources describe them?
They describe the F-22 pilot as perhaps the last vestige of the classic ace. The lone wolf hunting in the sky. Albeit an ace augmented with superpowers, thanks to the jet.
Okay, so still focused on the traditional fight.
Largely, yes. Their focus, even with all that incredible technology, still remains primarily on the primal geometry of air combat, energy, angle, and ordnance. They're still fundamentally engaging in a one-on-one or maybe small-scale aerial duel, just with immense advantages given by the Raptor's stealth and sensors.
So their mind is on the hunt.
Yes. Their consciousness is, quote, directed toward the hunt, the tracking of a single foe, and the execution of a perfect kill. They are, in essence, the tip of the spear, the ultimate duelist. While they have an unparalleled sensor suite and incredible stealth, their cognitive process is still very much focused on that individual engagement, outmaneuvering and defeating a specific opponent. They are enhanced, yes, but their core mission feels rooted in that tradition of individual aerial combat. A modern, superpowered night in the sky, maybe.
Okay. Now, compare that to the F-35 pilot. Our sources say they are something entirely different.
Completely different. They are described as less a duelist and more a system administrator of violence. That's a striking phrase.
System administrator of violence. What does that mean in practice?
It means their cognitive load, the main task filling their brain power, isn't primarily about managing their own aircraft's energy state in a dogfight, like the F-22 pilot might be. It's about managing a torrent of information, that massive deluge of data we talked about from every conceivable source, all fused and presented to them on their helmet display.
So they're managing the network, not just the jet.
In a way, yes. They are less a traditional fighter pilot and more a conductor, orchestrating not just their own weapons, but potentially the weapons of an entire network. Imagine the mental processing required. Our sources give examples. They could be simultaneously directing a naval destroyer's missile launch at a distant surface target identified by their sensors, while also cueing an artillery strike for ground forces thousands of feet below, maybe spotting enemy troops the guys on the ground can't see, Or perhaps guiding a non-stealthy F-16 to a target that only the F-35 can see, using that shared data network.
That's multitasking on a superhuman level.
It really is. They are fighting a war on a scale that no previous pilot could have conceived of. Managing multiple concurrent engagements, coordinating assets across air, land, and sea domains in real time. It's a fundamental shift from individual combat skill to networked command and control, all happening inside one cockpit.
This God's eye view they inhabit. It sounds so seductive, offering immense power. But our sources suggest it's also potentially dangerous psychologically.
There's a real question there. Does this power elevate them, turning them into demigods of the battlefield? Or does it, in a strange way, perhaps diminish them, making them feel like just one component, albeit a critical one, in a vast, semi-autonomous machine? Does the machine augment the human, or does the human just serve the machine's network?
And the abstraction of it all. That must be weird when enemies aren't even aircraft you see, but just colored symbols moving on a digital display, when destruction is just a clean digital command you input. That must carry a profound psychological weight, wouldn't you think?
Absolutely. It makes you wonder, if you were in that cockpit, constantly processing this torrent of information, managing life and death decisions based on icons on a screen, how do you even begin to mentally switch off after a mission? That God's eye view must come with a profound mental cost, a different kind of burden than traditional combat.
It's a critical question about the human element in advanced warfare. These weapons, as our sources put it, are not just tools for projecting force, but prisms that refract the very nature of their humanity and their role in the brutal calculus of war. They force us to reevaluate what it means to be a warrior in this digital age. And it's interesting how our sources bring in historical context here with these echoes of history. They remind us that back in Vietnam, American jets were armed with what were then the most advanced long-range missiles. But they often still found themselves tangled in close-range dogfights with tiny, nimble MiGs.
Yeah, the early missiles weren't always reliable, and the rules of engagement often required visual identification before firing. So the myth of purely beyond visual range, or BVR, combat kind of shattered against that reality. Pilots who were trained primarily for missile shots found they had to quickly relearn or remember classic dogfighting skills.
They needed the gun. They needed the close-in missiles.
Exactly. And this is a powerful reminder that technology doesn't always supersede the fundamentals of combat. Despite incredible technological leaps, sometimes the brutal reality of close-quarters combat demands a more primal approach. And both the F-22 and F-35 seem to carry this memory in their design. They still keep that sidewinder for the close-in fight. They still keep the cannon. It's almost as if a whisper of history insists. The duel may return, the ghost may be cornered, the sky may demand blood up close.
It's a profound acknowledgement built right into the hardware that for all the advancements in networks and sensors and stealth, chaos can always reduce combat to its most basic, brutal form.
Exactly. Plan for the future, but don't forget the lessons of the past.
Which brings us towards the end, looking at the future shadow and these weapons yet unfired. Let's return to our starting point, that silence of the unfired weapon. The true power of these arsenals, as we've discussed, it seems to lie not just in their explosive potential, but in the chilling effect of their existence.
Yes. Their very capability to penetrate any defense, to see without being seen, to dismantle a foe systemically. That capability is a weapon in itself, even if it's never used in anger. It's the core of deterrence. It's the ghost story told in the briefing rooms of potential adversaries. It's a shadow that alters their every calculation, potentially stopping conflicts before they even begin. That silence, that pervasive, unseen threat forces them to reconsider their actions. It's the ultimate psychological weapon in many ways.
And the evolution we've traced today, from the F-22's focus on perfected kinetic violence, the ultimate dogfighter, to the F-35's emphasis on informational and networked lethality, the ultimate quarterback.
Yeah.
It marks a really profound and maybe unsettling shift in warfare.
It really is. It's a journey from the visceral to the cerebral, you could say, from the explosive to the cognitive. We're moving beyond just thinking about destruction towards this much more nuanced manipulation of the entire battle space, physical and electronic.
And these machines and the doctrines, the ideas that animate their weapons, they're not just the future of aerial combat. Our sources suggest they are a prophecy about the changing character of all human conflict.
That's a heavy thought. They suggest a future where wars might be decided not by the clash of armies on a battlefield, but by the silent collapse of networks, by the subtle manipulation of perception, and by the surgical annihilation of an enemy's ability to know where or even who they are. It's a war fought in the minds and the machines, potentially long before it ever spills blood on the ground.
And the technology, as we know, it never stands still. We're already hearing whispers of tomorrow's arsenal, right?
Yeah.
Weapons that are only just now emerging from the shadows or are still in development.
Oh, absolutely. The AIM-260 JATM Joint Air Tactical Missile is often mentioned. It's the whispered successor to the AMRAAM. The goal there is probably to greatly extend missile range even further, maybe incorporate more advanced counter-stealth capabilities, pushing that beyond visual range envelope way out.
And hypersonics, we hear a lot about those.
Hypersonic missiles, yes. Traveling at Mach 5 or faster. Their sheer speed makes them incredibly difficult, maybe impossible, to intercept with current defenses. Integrating those onto fighters would be another huge leap.
And what about drones? You mentioned the F-35 directing drone swarms.
That's a huge area of development. The F-35 is already being prepared for roles like directing drone wingmen, wielding these loyal wingman UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles as extensions of its will. Imagine an F-35 pilot not just flying their own jet, but actively controlling or commanding a formation of semi-autonomous drones alongside them. Each drone could be carrying extra weapons or specialized sensors or electronic warfare pods, acting as an extension of the F-35's own capabilities, sent into harm's way, perhaps.
So the F-35's internal bays might one day release not only missiles, but robotic companions, unleashing swarms of smaller, intelligent drones.
That's the kind of future concept being explored. And even the F-22, aging but still arguably the world's most dominant air-to-air fighter, its role might continue to shift, maybe towards high-altitude dominance, operating at the very edge of space, acting as a launch platform for very long-range missiles or deploying advanced sensors. But the lingering, unsettling uncertainty through all this is, quote, which are real teeth and which are illusions, which of these new technologies will truly transform warfare, and which are just another layer in the ongoing cognitive battle, another ghost in the machine.
It's hard to tell where the reality ends and the deterrence-focused hype begins sometimes.
It really is.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's just quickly recap the core idea. The weapons of the F-22 and the F-35, they're clearly not just missiles and bombs. They are, as our sources suggested, philosophies cast in steel and composite. They reveal so much about not just what a nation like America fears, but also what it hopes for in conflict and what it fundamentally believes war has become or is becoming.
And this leaves us with a truly provocative thought, something for you, the listener, to maybe consider long after our conversation ends. What sound does a war make when its most decisive battles are fought in absolute silence, in the realm of electrons and algorithms?
Or maybe ask yourself, which is the truer faith in this brave new world of conflict, that the ghost unseen will always win? Because it sees first, shoots first, manipulates perception, or that the duel, raw and close, will eventually return to haunt us, no matter how advanced our machines become. That primal need for the gun, the stiletto.
It's the fundamental tension, isn't it, between the technological ideal and the messy reality of combat?
It really is. Hopefully you'll walk away from this deep dive with a heightened sense of the sky being vaster now, more uncertain than maybe you thought, and with the understanding that perhaps the most dangerous weapon is not the missile nor the cannon. It is the doctrine behind them, the belief about what war is and what it will become.
Keep listening, keep learning.
And keep questioning the silence.
If you enjoy this video, please like, share, subscribe and hit the bell to the latest update from my channel. Thank you for watching till the end and see you in the next video.